here's the way I can describe Auburn, and there's a confidence level there because the roster's better. It's almost like the kid in high school that lost a bunch of bad weight during the summer and then comes back the first day of school and he's all confident and he's social and his skin's better. He's not afraid to talk to girls. That's how it feels watching Auburn kind of walk around because they have upgraded the roster. Now, is it an elite roster? Like Hugh Freeze said, are they where they want to be yet? No. But at the end of the day, this is a game that is won by players and watched by coaches. And I've seen, like I've said multiple times, a lot of great coaches look dumb because they didn't have great players. A lot of dumb coaches look smart because they had great players. I think Auburn's roster, from the wide receivers to even the offensive line, especially on the defensive line. The secondary is a little bit of a question because they lost some guys that are young there, but I'd rather be good on the defensive line and average in the secondary than average on the defensive line and good in the secondary. So you mix that with the schedule, I think there's reason for some confidence. Payton Thorne, who we may get live on the show here when he comes out on Radio Row, he's one of the guys they sent. He's talked a lot like Coach Freeze has about being able to have more weapons to operate, right? Because there's an old saying that us defensive coaches and defensive guys say you can't double everybody. And last year for Auburn, it was a simple recipe, right? You stop the run and you bracket Rivaldo Fairweather on third down and passing and in the red zone. Well, now with Cam Coleman, now with Lambert Smith coming in from Penn State at wide receiver, who's not elite at one thing, but he's good at everything. Robert Lewis from Georgia State, a guy that can play inside, a guy that can play outside. There's a lot more confidence, and there should be because the roster is better. So you can kind of feel that. Hugh Freeze is saying all the right things. You win media day by not losing it. And I know that sounds obvious, but they've said all the right things. They feel confident. And again, Blaine, and I want to toss this to you for a second. You look at their schedule that we're going to go through. You got to start 4-0. And you probably got to start 5-0 because I think 8-4 is very gettable with this schedule. I think 9-3 is a possibility. And again, Auburn hasn't sent me a check yet. Yeah, I'm from there. Yeah, my dad played there. Yeah, we're Auburn fans. Everybody's a fan of somebody. If you're not, you should be federally investigated. But you look at this team, I think there's a reason for them to be a little bit more confident.
I do think so. Let's be honest here. Even if you're an Auburn fan or you've watched Auburn play football, I don't think either side of the ball is elite enough for them not to have Payton Thorne be the guy this year. Payton Thorne, Auburn will go as far as Payton Thorne will take them. Mm-hmm. I really believe that. Will he have more weapons on the outside? For sure. Lambert Smith, Cam Coleman, he's young, special player. He's going to be a great piece. But the games you have to win, sometimes you have to have a dog at quarterback to win you those games. If your roster isn't as elevated as other teams, you can go to Georgia and Alabama and play certain teams, and you can have a mediocre performance at quarterback and win that game. In big games, especially the road games, because right now the road games for Auburn are Georgia, Missouri, Kentucky, and Alabama. Payton Thorne is going to have to play extremely good football to win those games. He's going to have to be the difference this year for Auburn.
No, and yes, I think two things can be true at once. Yeah, Auburn didn't have a ton of weapons last year, right? Payton Thorne didn't play that well. Now, I think in the big games, obviously he ran the ball well. He put some balls where they were supposed to be, but Auburn couldn't get open on the outside, Blaine. Like, all they could do was either put Rivaldo Fairweather in the seam, line him up in the hip, line him up in the slot, whatever, and throw it in the middle or put him outside. But when you know this as well as anybody. You played the position at wide receiver. Football's the ultimate team sport. Payton Thorne didn't have a lot of options. It was amazing the run game was as good as it was because Auburn was a one-trick pony. So, yes, Payton Thorne does have to play better. But you got to put guys around him that give him a chance where he didn't have to be Drew Brees or Dan Marino or go out here and run around like a chicken with his head cut off. So when I look at both of the things that are pulling each other, Payton Thorne playing well, Auburn having position players that are able to turn 50-50 balls into 80-20 balls, right? They didn't have anybody like that outside of Rivaldo Fairweather last year. I think it's going to elevate everybody, right? A rising tide lifts all ships. But the thing about Payton Thorne I'm watching that nobody is talking about, and it blows my mind, that in that RPO system, don't forget it, Michigan State, it was a much more pro-style system, right? Drop back, go through your progressions. There wasn't a ton of eye manipulation. You're trying to work with the intermediate defenders on defense. his first year in the RPO system, I don't think he made a lot of good decisions, whether to pull it, whether to give it, whether to pull it and pop it or whatever. So I'm looking for growth there, but it always helps when guys are running open. And they now have guys that even when they're not open, like Cam Coleman can go get it. Rivaldo can go get it. Lambert can go get it. So I don't want to just put it all on, well, Payton Thorne's got to go out there being a Superman. He doesn't have to even be Batman. He just needs to be a really good Robin. And I'm going to continue to say that.
All right, so here's Auburn's schedule in its entirety, boys. All right, Alabama A&M, Cal, and that's at home, New Mexico at home, Arkansas at home, Oklahoma at home. Pretty good start there. Go on the road to play Georgia in Athens. Then they get their first bye week. Missouri on the road in Columbia, Kentucky in Lexington, Vanderbilt at home, and then they get that second bye week. UL Monroe in Auburn, Texas A&M comes to Auburn, and then the Iron Bowl at the end of the season is in Tuscaloosa. So you were talking about 8-4. I mean, just to continue the analogy of Auburn, was what? The kid who was overweight a year ago, but he got super fit in the summer. Now he's coming in and he's super confident.
Well,
you know, if Auburn goes 8-4,
I wouldn't say super fit, David.
Well,
I wouldn't say super fit.
He's
Still
confident.
a little flabby, but he looks better. He looks better. Yes.
Okay, he looks better. He's more confident. Some of the girls are looking at him, I think was the analogy. So if they go 8-4, what is that kid at the end of the season? What, did he kind of lose interest in getting fit and he's kind of overweight again, or is that a good trajectory?
No. If they're 8-4, he started doing push-ups before he went to sleep, and now he's getting a little stronger, and he's ready to go into 2025 a little bit more shredded. Now all the girls are looking. Nobody loves anything more than an underdog story in this country, including women. Look, the last piece of the puzzle for Auburn. For the first time in a while, all of Auburn is aligned. I've talked about this. We've talked about it with Cole Kublik. The players, the coaches, the fans, the donors, the administration, right? Everybody in the community is aligned. You've got state-of-the-art facilities. You just built a magnificent, beautiful palace. You have every resource. You got a home field advantage that's incredible. Carson Beck's over here trying to tell Jackson Arnold, you're going to have to read the Bible, the Quran, everything when you go into Jordan Hare to try and even the odds. The last piece of the puzzle, the last ingredient in the recipe is on-field success. That way, when you do go in that living room to continue to not only recruit well, but recruit at an elite level, you can say, I told you we were going to do it on the field. Now you saw us do it on the field. Promises made, promises kept, and it'll juice it up even more. I think Auburn fans would take 8-4 right now. I think if 100%. You said Auburn will go 8-4, will you take it right now? I think most Auburn fans would. I think 9-3 is a possibility.
That's what I was going to ask. I was going to ask, is 9-3?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is 9-3 a possibility there? I mean, let's just say they lose on the road at Georgia. Let's say they lose the Iron Bowl on the road at Alabama. And right now, let's say they lose at Missouri. I think Missouri is going to be really good. That game's on the road. Look, you get Texas A&M at home. You get Oklahoma at home. The non-conference to me is very favorable. And you're always going to have a dogfight with Kentucky. You're going to have a dogfight with Arkansas. It's the SEC. But, I mean, is 9-3 out there?
I mean, yeah, you can say it's out there, but I wouldn't, if I'm Auburn, I wouldn't take a single non-scheduled game and not take it lightly after you just got your ass whooped by New Mexico last year. We can talk about winning 9 games. That's fine. Mm-hmm. And when you do bring up ingredients, the main ingredient, the most important ingredient is winning football games. And that's what Hugh Freeze has to do. And I don't think if Payton Thorne is Robin, you are winning 8 games. I don't think you're winning 9 games. I feel like if Payton Thorne is Robin, you will probably have a 7-5, 6-6 season.
See, I disagree with that, because when I say Payton Thorne needs to be Robin, what I'm saying is you don't need him to go out there and be a Heisman contender, right? Like, I mean, you would love that. That would be great. But to win 8 games, what is Robin? He's there when you need him. He doesn't make mistakes. And, at the end of the day, he may not be the biggest headliner. He may not be Carson Beck. He may not be Jalen Monroe. He may not be Jackson Dart. But he's good enough to win the games you're supposed to win and make a couple of the plays you have to make to maybe steal one. When you look at that schedule, if you're going to win, let's just run this experiment out. If you're going to win 9 games, you got to start 5-0. Right, you got to start 5-0. That includes beating Oklahoma, which that'll be Jackson Dart's first road game, right? With an offensive line that does have experience, but they haven't played at Oklahoma. They had to replace the whole thing. Their first road game, it's going to be a nightmare there. So if you start 5-0, and this is how I see it going. Let's say you start 5-0. Then you go lose to Georgia. All right, I don't want to live in rainbow land, all right, where the leprechauns are made of chocolate and the flowers eat candy corn. All right, the odds of you going to beat Georgia isn't very good. So let's say you lose that one. To me, the games that the season will hinge on, and David, you hit this a little bit, all right, is Oklahoma, week 5 at home, Kentucky on the road. You win both of those, you're pretty much guaranteed to win 8. Right? It's going to be tough to beat Missouri. Maybe you sneak up and you're able to split, go 2-2 on the road. That would get you maybe even to 10-2, but that's probably not going to happen. But that's how you get to 9-3. And when it comes to the non-conference games, I want everybody in our audience, the Booster Club, to really hear me on this one. As devastating and as ugly and as embarrassing and as shameful as that drubbing that New Mexico State put on Auburn last year was, I think that will be one of the things that helps elevate Auburn in the non-conference game where they don't overlook a team this year, because they all went through it last year, right? You're never going to have to go to practice and everybody's on a knee looking at coach talking and say, guys, we can't overlook ULM. You're not going to overlook the first game because it's the first game. We can't overlook, any of these non-conference games that we have against lesser opponents because New Mexico came in here last year and pulled our pants down and laughed at us in front of everybody at recess. So I think that could actually, in a weird way, be a positive for this year. I wish it didn't happen, right? But it did. So let's not forget you can use that and point to that Hugh Freeze can to make sure they go game by game. So I think 8-4 is very likely. 9-3 is gettable. But David, I mean, you're going to have to probably beat Kentucky to get to 9, right? That's pretty much obvious.
Yeah, not only that, but I think you need to beat either Texas A&M or Oklahoma. I mean, look, even if you lose to Oklahoma and you start 4-1, and that's why today is so fascinating to me at SEC Media Days, because Auburn and Texas A&M and Arkansas and Kentucky, these are 4 teams. I don't have any of these teams with a possibility to win the conference this year, but all of them have an opportunity to punch above their weight and ruin the season for other teams, right? So I think the conference will be decided on who can go into Auburn and win football games or who's going to go into Auburn and lose football games. Who's going to go into College Station this year and be able to beat the Aggies? Who's going to go in and lose to them? I think that's what's going to dictate the conference.
YouTube, what's up, brother? Hit that like, hit that subscribe button. Crain and Company gives you the best content in all of sports. Don't forget to turn on that notification button as well.